I don't have large groups. I just never have. So, and now with the opportunity at EXP, you kind of have that second job availability if you choose to take it. So.
I give a little context here, and really to kick things off with Matt for this agent spotlight. Matt and I have been working together almost 6 years. I just looked to go back and kind of check, and Matt's always been really like super tight, super small. Just him, usually admin, maybe a couple agents, and consistently, cranking out transactions. And so, Jeff, I don't know where you want to kind of start with Matt and let him kind of tell the story, his whole real estate kind of journey, and where you want to kind of start. Really beneficial for everybody because, building a massive team is not always the way to go, right? You have to align it to your goals, the things that you want to accomplish. Matt is super active with the kiddos and sports and still able to balance and juggle what he's doing real estate wise, and then also growing the opportunity, growing the team in another way at this time. So I think that'll be really insightful for everybody tuning in to this spotlight interview with Mr. Matt Curcio.
Yeah, 100%. You bring up a good point there, Kitchens, too, is like a few good people, a few A players on your team, whether that's one or it's five, they make rather than have 100 people, those few A players on your team can do more than what 100 C players and a few B players will do. So you bring up the good point, Kitchens. It's not about the numbers and having a 50-person team and a bunch of buyer's agents and listing agents and everything if it doesn't support the goal of where you're trying to get to. If you can get to the goal with just a few people, I think that's probably better. And we'll ask Matt, a little bit about his perspective on that. But I know from my perspective, managing a smaller group of people who are easier to manage and more inclined to execute and follow is way better than trying to talk to those 5 people and then the other 45 people who don't, and they're just going to distract the 5 people that I'm really trying to talk to.
Yeah.
But man, Matt, what I wanted to do that I think is really cool today, I'm going to share my screen real quick, all right? And we're going to take a flashback just for a second. Loaded this up beforehand.
I was like, oh, you boys.
So here's no, I don't think it was that long ago. Let's see here. So everybody can see we're streaming on Facebook, guys, too. And so I just wanted to flashback. This is, I think, 2011. So when we talk about you being around for a minute, you've been around for a minute, and you've had, I think, the advantage of then 8 years of taking the principles and the tools and the strategies and refining them and putting them to work. So let's hear what you had to say 8 years ago.
Yeah, let's see it.
I decided a couple years ago to start a team, and Kinder Reese had the roadmap that I needed. Since then, my business has grown. Last year, we went from, 40 to 50 units as an individual. I consistently did. And then we're over 80 units last year, and this year we're going to be closer to 100. The biggest benefit for me is as an elite client, I rely on Kinder Reese to train my staff, and all of the recommendations that they use or that they give us, because they test all the different systems that are going on in the industry, the top technology, so I don't have to waste my time with all those different companies. The conference has been great. I've been going to conferences for about 8 of the 10 years I've been in business, and the information here is much better than more than 75% of the conferences that I've ever been at. I would definitely recommend this conference to any agent who wants to take their business to the next level. I decided a couple years ago to...
So that was in 2011. You remember that, Matt?
I do, man. I recognize some of those booths. I reckon, man, yeah, that was the beginning. That was my first year hitting about 100 deals, I guess. So
I saw that wasn't Ryan Gibbons behind you there snacking on that thing. He was.
It kind of looked like him, but I don't think so. Not 8 years ago. That wasn't him.
Okay, he was there getting some. Well, man, let's just start off today, Matt. You got so much to talk to. I just want to let you flow, really. You've got so much experience. Let's not really try to stick to a script or anything, but I would like to start the conversation off with that guy right there in 2011. He got home from EGS and started going to work. And so for agents who are on this call who haven't been through the 8 years of growth that you have, like, what did you start doing when you got home that really started to move the needle for you?
So you want to talk from the very beginning, or like as a kindergarten?
How about what you consider the beginning? What you consider the beginning?
All right. So first, do me a favor, Jeff. You could probably edit my name. Put the I in there in case people are writing it down or following me on Facebook or Instagram.
My bad. That's my bad.
What was it called? So I guess the beginning was I got into real estate with a buddy of mine, and we kind of hustled, man. We were making a lot of calls. That was back when HUD homes were paying 5%. We used to chase that list and call everybody that was, in construction and let them know it was, hey, we got 5 new deals. Who can buy them? And taught me how to hustle and sell. And then I had the opportunity to take a sales course, and I did. Something that was said to me was pretty important in my career. And my old broker said to me, he said, I didn't want to take it because I didn't want to spend the money. And he said, the fact that you don't have the money, and it was $800-900 or something, he's like, is the exact reason why you need to take this course. And I said, that makes sense. So I did it, and my career took off from there.
So I just want to unpack that for a second. What was the sales course?
That was Floyd Wickman's Sweat Hogs.
All right. So there you go. Yep. Hopefully everybody take a note right there. Education's the key, and then hustling. So when you say you're hustling, people got different definitions for that word. So hustling is when you say you're making calls. My guess is, and you tell me where I'm wrong, but you are on a consistent daily basis, likely calling expireds, calling for sale by owners, calling just about everything that was in your database. Probably spending hours on the phone. Does that sound about right?
Well, at the beginning, so I didn't know about the expireds and FSBOs and wasn't trained on it. We were focused buyers, right? So me and my partner at the time, I forget how many units we might have did, maybe 50 or so, but we kind of just hammered buyers because that's what we had. We had investors, and then we had our sphere of people that were, we were both, I guess, around 24, 25 years old. So we had some of our friends starting to buy their first homes and everything. So I was focused on buyers at that point. Once I went through the Sweat Hogs program, that's basically a calling program. Mm-hmm. So that put me through 8 weeks of calling, being regimented. You had to be in the office 9:30 every morning or 9 a.m. every morning. Broker had to sign off that you were there and made calls, and your calls were allowed to stop as soon as you got to leave. So if you got one at 9:10, you were allowed to be done for the day.
Yeah.
But if it took till 3 p.m, that's when you got done. So that was a neat thing about that course. And then, I just continued to train from a couple other coaching companies. And then finally, Jay and Mike created, I think it was Inner Circle first. Somehow I found them. And then I eventually, subscribed as an elite coach was coached in the elite level and then eventually mastermind. So, and my career, I always knew every week kind of what I needed. If it was a certain amount of contracts, there was a few years where it was, every week I needed 3 listing appointments. You know what I mean? I wanted to take when the market, blew up. I knew that I needed to have, a large amount of inventory. So I remember that year, I think we took like 80 or 90, close to 100 listings. And that was primarily my stuff. There was times when I was floating 30 listings, 30 signs in the ground. And I guess in growing my team, I just found it. I was at a brokerage. I was at RE/MAX. So it's a fee-based company. So I always kept my team small because of the fees.
Yep.
It was a hindrance that I had there. But at the end of the day, it's, you figure out the problems that come with more production, more units, administration, all that stuff. And I just always felt comfortable with a handful of people, trying to be more full-time than part-time and stuff like that. Now at EXP, I don't have to do that. I don't have that limitation of rejecting, an agent that wants to succeed, or may only be able to do a handful of transactions a year. Now I can help that consumer that they touch, because that can come through and be run through an actual a team with experience and all that stuff.
That's a great point. We talked a little bit about working through that. Matt's an extremely loyal guy, and the broker situation. You just made me have a thought. You were with him for it was a whole career,
16, 17 years.
And that was hard, right? That was a hard decision, a hard move. I think we prepared for that and talked about that for years, right? What was the situation? Yeah. What was going to be the next step? And for anybody tuning in and listening that is in a situation where they just have that loyalty feel, what would you say to them to think about if they're looking to make a move or transition, or kind of what's the next step? And it doesn't have to be to EXP, but maybe something that's holding them back from growing because of the loyalty and the situation they're at. Just like you said, you didn't have an incentive to grow. You were extremely loyal. You didn't know what the future was going to unfold. I know there was an opportunity for you to buy it, and but the way the compensation was structured, it didn't make sense for you to attract or bring on a bunch and try to grow a big team. So we stayed small and just made you, the most efficient human being that you could be with all of the obligations and commitments on your plate. So what would you say to somebody that might be in that same situation, that's kind of maybe has the handcuffs on a little bit, that's being held back because of a loyalty situation?
So, I guess first and foremost, you'll realize, it's unfortunate, but you'll realize pretty quickly, the type of relationship you have when you remove the financial gain to one party. Okay. So when that relationship ends and somebody stops getting paid, you'll see if they're a true friend or not. Right. So hindsight, I learned a little bit more about my relationship. Right.
Yeah.
But if you're, and that's the first thing I would tell you is your broker may not be as friendly to you if they stop making money, off your transactions. And so number one, have that in the back of your head. Just realize that, right? This may be a friendship and someone that, that wants to help you just because they're making good money off of your transactions. Right. I've been to some events locally where I've seen agents that had previous brokers come to their weddings and things like that. And that's a true friendship, right? And, after they quit, right? After their, retirement parties and all that stuff. And that's a true friend. But what you'll find most of the time is that broker doesn't really care about you after you're out of their company and after you're out of their, inner circle, or, in their bank account, I should say.
Right.
So that's first. But, the biggest thing for me is it was an opportunity, and you should be open to opportunity and never shun it because you're being coached to push it away. Okay. I missed an opportunity to help open a KW locally, and I looked 4 or 5 years later and I said, man, and I said, we talked about this, and I was in the Remax mode. It'll never work. Keller will never be successful here and all that stuff. And then, they were. Mm-hmm. And I could have been at the top of that, right? So I sit back and said, man, I got kind of talked out of that, and I talked myself out of an opportunity. Why? Ego, right? So check your ego and really evaluate systems to see if they're an opportunity to benefit you and your family, and don't push opportunity away because of the ego. And I guess that would be the biggest thing I say. And, John, me and you evaluated, my exit actually took like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I went back and forth. And, today it's the best decision I could have ever made. I have more today than I had after 17 years with the company. I have more today in 13 months, 14 months with the company. So,
And we're gonna let's dive into that. But you brought up, Matt. I just want to circle back on something you said that I think is really important. Kind of the sum of what you said there that I think is really important is, don't let your ego blind you from the potential of opportunities, because it sure does. And it's the same thing as those people that are sitting out here right now who know, like you, when they wanted to start to work with more sellers, somebody gave them the idea that they should call expireds. There's somebody else in their office or somebody else in their sphere that is saying, don't do that. Oh, you'll never get nothing. Oh, you'll never get nothing out of doing that. And so just another example that if it's not about changing companies, it can be about something as simple as a strategy where for every person that says you should do it, there will be somebody who says you shouldn't do it. And if it's something that you're not necessarily excited about doing, you're going to listen to that person who's saying that you probably don't need to do it. And in relation to your loyalty, it's tough. But, the people that show up at your wedding, hopefully they are your friends. Sometimes they're your friends for a temporary period of time. They're more interested in your compensation than they are your success, yep. Right? And what you want is somebody who's really invested in your success, whether that means that you're with me or not. The fact is that if I point you in the right direction and it changes your life, I think you're going to talk about it far more than if you just had a mediocre career working alongside of me, or a great career, whatever it is. I gave you the opportunity to live life on your own terms that way. And Kitchens and I talked about it yesterday during our podcast. We talked about leadership, and I had just recently been through that John Maxwell book, Great Leaders Ask Great Questions. And he talks about the story in there where John Maxwell grew up working for his father. It was everything that he'd known his entire life, from a child up until a mid-adult. So every employee, everything, that was his life. And the hardest conversation, the hardest question that he asked in his life was when he asked his father, was it okay if he left the organization? And his father, invested in his success, said absolutely, and blessed the move. And he went on and made a career of himself. But, I think that that's important, to not let somebody who is vested in your compensation more than your success dictate the direction that you head in.
Yeah. And I guess if they get upset, somebody shouldn't get upset because you see an opportunity, right? If it's an opportunity, the door should be left open. And you'll be able to tell real quick in your first conversation if they're going to shut it off because it's they're in it for them, If you can look at it, there's opportunity in a lot of different things. You can open a damn car wash that's being successful. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if there's an opportunity.
Oh man, car wash. Let me tell you about the nightmares with the car wash, man. Oh, guess that I know people that are collecting coin. They're making a killing on car washes.
Right. It's just, people can talk you out of a lot, and there is loyalty in this business, especially to those companies and those agent brokers and team leaders and all that stuff who helped build you. But at the end of the day, they were built as well. And if they're not sharing in the pie, then you're going to have that upfront conversation of, hey guys, it's my turn to go figure, to get a bigger piece of this. And I see an opportunity here and I want your support for that. I don't want to become an enemy, and, you'll know pretty quickly. So
Kitchens, why don't you talk through a little bit? You were side by side with Matt as he went through the changes. Why don't you talk a little bit about what that looked like? And let's get into kind of what things look like now, how you're maintaining production while getting solid A players on your team. And let's roll right into that.
Yeah, I think what would be really insightful for everybody is to kind of, unpack what business looked like prior to making the move. Because, for those that are tuning in that, maybe right now they're just focused on, growing their real estate career and really what it was for you prior to, because now it's a little bit different, right? It's a little bit of a different juggle right now. Yep. Versus the juggle on the front end, and give some context to everybody tuning in, your level of commitment with the kiddos and sports and stuff like that, because it's just not you 100% just trucking real estate. You have different seasons throughout the year to where you can't get much Maddie time. I mean, it's there's a lot of different obligations. So I think give that context to everybody tuning in, because there's a lot of people, man. They you don't miss sporting events. You don't miss your kids' stuff. And there's a lot of folks listening in that are kind of torn with that as well. And I think you can give some tremendous insight for everybody listening on how to make that work.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing is you have to master your schedule. And look, I don't even have an A in this bracket yet, but I'm pretty damn good at it. But guys like Jay, and I mean, I saw Wally's calendar once, man. That thing was full for like 4 months, and he had like 20 minutes in there. I was like, Jesus, that is a massive. I do pretty good when it comes to my real estate stuff, but at the end of the day, become, obviously time management, go through classes, listen to the trainings on time management, how to block out your days and all that stuff. Second, I would say, with time management will come the business and the proper systems, right? You'll have time to work on your business, to build it properly, to structure it. And then following the systems of Kinder Reese and seeing top agents around you, we all follow a similar pattern, right? We start selling, then our units get, in my opinion, I go unit based because we sell a lot of units, and that's paperwork. So that's what, people could tell me they do 10 deals a year, and they can be as busy as they want, but I know I could do that stuff in my sleep and I'd be off for 10 months. But at the end of the day, it's, at about 30 deals a year is when your business will change. You need administration. You can go virtual first, and then eventually you need in-house. And then if you want to grow beyond that to get past like 40, 50, 60 units, that's when you have to start adding buyer's agents and systems for tracking the leads and all that stuff. So, really first, time management, second, systems in place, and the organizational chart. And, in the org chart, once depending on where your business is, you'll eventually start getting onto the listing side, more than the buying side. And, doing that requires more systems, right? Maybe an inside salesperson. Again, highest and best use of your time. And being able to part with money as well, right? Because we can't just make, 30,000 a year and expect to spend, 20 of it because we go buy an admin, right? So you got to do this all timed out with the right amount of income, the savings, and, there's a structure to that, have a good few months, put some of it in core capital, operating and all that. So you can eventually say, all right, well, I got enough money now to bring on an ISA for at least 90 days. That should return on its investment by the time that's done. Now let's make that higher, right? Mm-hmm. And then, build as big as you want to build, but keep an eye on that net profit, So, that's the biggest thing that I've learned over, controlling my team. I've had 6 team members that were coming in down to 2. It's a summertime here in Jersey. We're near the beaches. One of my agents is down at the shore. Well, 2 of them are down the shore at their shore houses. And then a couple contracts will come in. That's about it. And then come September, they'll come back. So, to me, I always hustle because I have systems in place very hard through about now, right? July, well, kind of August, September is when I kick it up. And I usually have a good November, December, January, February will usually be a little bit light. And then March is when I start baseball. So I coach my daughter's travel team and her township team. So that's usually, I guess.
There, for some of you that there you go, right there, huh?
Yeah, that's my son's team. I didn't coach that one this year. I coached his travel team, but they were the champs. And then my daughter, we went pretty far. We went to the semifinals in both teams. So, that can be 3-4 nights a week, right? So, with that gone out of my schedule, sometimes I'm running in here on a Saturday and working for a few hours. And why? Because I'm between games or something, And hey, somebody gives me a call for a good price listing. I'm going to work that Saturday or Sunday. And you know why? Because I know I took off at 4 o'clock to get to the game by 5. And again, that comes down to time management. And then when it comes to, the actual business of sales, you will not find, I will be in this seat in my office usually before 10 a.m. And if I don't have games, like now it's postseason, I'll be here till, 8 o'clock at night, and then there, obviously stuff comes up and, we have different events that we go to and all that. But, really it starts with time management. Then it's systems, and then it's controlling your time and then making, things important. I have a great support system as well. My wife, handles the kids, the school and all that stuff. I was a single dad doing this though. There was a time when I had 50% custody of my kids and I was running back and forth and I had an admin, and I used to tell my admins, hey, part of your job is watching my kids. They're 3 and 4 years old, and hey, I might bring them to the office. You're going to watch them. I'm going to go sell some houses and then, whatever. And there was times they got called out of daycare and, my admin's at my house, watching the kids, and I'm in the office doing all the work because I got to pay the bills and the daycare and everything. And by the time they were 5 and 6, I had 100% custody. Right. So I ran through that whole thing, and I hear objections sometimes from team members where like, oh, I have kids. I said, yeah, must be hard, and I just sit back and laugh and smile and say, yeah, I have kids too. And and then when they ask me, they find out I have, I've had 100% custody since they were, 5. And, it's, again, all comes down to time management, right things, right order. And that's what Kinder Reese, has helped me build over the years, is kind of figuring out the system that works best for doing that.
I think the thing there, Matt, is, man, you're crystal clear on your commitments, and that's where people get tripped up. And I'm too busy. It's bull, and you know it, because they're just not clear on their commitments. And so, like for you. You got crystal clear, man. Those kiddos were your commitments. This business, you knew how you were going to, put food on the table. You were crystal clear on your commitments, and, you don't waver from that. And that's one of the many things that I love about you. And, just how focused that you get, because your time is stretched beyond what most people can't even fathom, right? They can't even put themselves in to even think of the amount of time in the things that you do. So I think I love it. I think it's amazing. So what was primarily prior to, we're still at Remax. We haven't made this transition yet. What was primarily, driving business for you? What was our top focus, top lead sources, top avenues to capture and, capture business?
So I always I still run a good expired mailing campaign. So that always generated at least a sale a month, and that was with no calls. That's routine. That's been a routine of mine for at least 15 years, probably 10 years, 15 years. So expired mail every day. Eventually, if I'm not making calls, expired calls for myself, for my ISA. Again, those years when I was like, I need to have 3 listing appointments, it was me on the phone, whether it was Z buyer leads, HBN, house buyer networks. What are the other ones? There's another one. I forget what it is, but any cash offer now.
Z buyer stuff. All the Z buyer.
Right. So just distressed properties. We ran through some years here in Jersey where I was, I am a short sale expert. So we have a lot of short sale inventory. So getting those listings, mailing, and that required mail, just like expired. You go after the Liz pendants every month. And then, I guess with a profile, I also had probably about less than $500 a month on Zillow. Most in the early years, it was like $200, but and then Realtor.com, I always had profiles there. So that's buyer lead generation, lead response. Once I built a team, I got into the team platforms, Commissions Inc. Here at EXP, we have KV Core. I use personally Market Maker. So that drops leads into a queue, and then, we have automated systems for follow-up. So I guess that's kind of my business. That's where it was coming from. I had a little, I had some of the agents here not working so hard last week, 2 weeks ago. So I said, hey guys, now I'm going to compete. I'm done softball and baseball. So now I'm going to tell you if these leads are any good or not.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Needless to say, I don't know if it's here. Let's pretend this is it, right? But a contract was on my desk that I got to show the agent for $275,000. And I said,
out of those leads.
I said, yeah, that lead hit everybody's inbox. How was I the only one that got him on the phone? And so at the end of the day, guys, it's truly just generating a lead. If you don't have the money to generate a lead, figure it out, right? Go to For Sale by Owner, right? Make an ad on Facebook. Go buy a software, or if you're not at EXP, your company should have some sort of a website that you can at least publish to generate some stuff, or just post stuff on Facebook, build an ad, and get a name out of it.
And then get after it, and then you got to get after it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Matt, you called that lead. That's what I told somebody on the phone the other day. We're talking about ISA service. Said the fact of the matter is, all leads are crap. They're all crap. I mean, that's not the difference. The difference is your skill set in communicating with those leads, your effort. Do you try it once, twice, 3 times, or do you try it 25 times before you hibernate it for 30 days and then try it again? Whatever it is, that's the difference maker. And unfortunately, what we see, and I know Kitchens, you see it a lot too, is you see people who are constantly jumping from lead provider to lead provider to lead provider, thinking that there are some Glengarry, Glen Ross leads out there, and there's no such thing. It's more often than not, it's not the lead provider, it's probably the systems and the processes that you're using that's the cause of low conversion. So, glad you brought up the point where, when you tell me it's a bad lead, let me sit down and call through them for an hour. Oh, look at that. I got something. So that must not be the case. Now, I wonder do you have one of those expired mailings there on your desk or within reach that you could show?
Sure. Give me 1 second.
All right.
So while Matt's getting that, he has. I mean, he's been religiously consistent with his mailing efforts, and it works, right? He's penetrated the mind of the consumer. He owns mind share, and when they think of real estate, their needs or whatever, it comes back around to Matt.
And he's doing yep, there you go. What's up, man?
All right. So first thing we do, I've changed it over the years. I use lumpy mail, right? So we used to have I remember one year we had, did you ever see those chocolate coins?
Yes.
Yeah. They're great, right? One thing they're not great at is in the summertime. So people call me and they're like, you got melted chocolate all over your ad. I was like, oh, maybe I should just, so switch that to a poker chip.
Yeah.
But so for
don't gamble. Don't gamble on the sale of your home, right?
That's my book. That's the tagline. It says, "Don't gamble with your largest investment." And then,
I love it.
The coin is right there. So this is just a card that you would get in the mail. So it's got the report and then our past expired sales. But we put it in an envelope, just like a 5x7 invitation card you would get. We put a wax stamp on the outsides. We have calligraphy for my return address, and we make it, we try to make it nice. So people are wondering if they got invited somewhere, and then they open it up and it's us.
Just like email, right? You're driving the opens. So that envelope presentation is getting them to open it. And what do you got there?
That's it. This is postcard number 1. That's just, again, we sold all these houses that other realtors failed to. And then postcard number 2 after that. Hit the panic button. That's our phone number is a panic button for when you can't sell your house.
So that goes out. So that goes out. Both of those are part of one campaign. I mean, all 3 of those are one campaign. And so what's the timing on that?
We, again, I run, I guess I'm cheap. So just say that, we run the expired mail. The first letter goes out daily. And then the postcards go out once every week or 2 following.
Awesome.
We wait till it hits 200 for the best cost. And then we just drop them in the mail. And, I don't need to be one of the 50 people, standing at the doorstep or, we'll take time and let them sit after enough agents got them upset. But we will call them too. We call them text expireds as well. So that's a good campaign.
I love it. That's a big takeaway. So those of you that are watching this video, pause it and take a screenshot and go use his model and recreate something that works for you. We've had tons of people ask about expired postcards. We used to have some over the years, and we stopped providing them. So that's the template right there that Matt showed anybody who's interested. And I love, it's not just a postcard, it's an actual sequence. So over the course of 60 days, they probably would have seen from you via email or heard from you via phone or text a dozen times at least. And you got in front of them in 3 instances where it was tangible. So I think that's awesome.
Yep. Absolutely. It's, hey, I sell expireds every day. So, or every year, there's at least a couple a month that we close on. I lost track of the numbers, but, every year we try to go back and try to update our websites for it. And then you got to leverage all the different technologies I'm sorry, that question just interrupted my thought. Somebody asked, I guess, what technologies for numbers. I would tell you it doesn't matter because the numbers giving out the good numbers are giving out the bad numbers, or the companies. And the companies giving out the bad numbers are also giving out some good numbers. And all the agents that are using RedX versus the agents that are using Vulcan versus the agents that are using, I forget the third one that I know of, Land Voice. Yeah. Look, guys, they got different numbers in each of them. You're going to get the people that haven't lived there in 10 years, and you're going to get the owner's son or daughter or somebody that rented the house 5 years ago, but you may get the right number, and one of them will have it. And with enough calls, you'll lose that question. But I've been told RedX and Vulcan, if this answers the question, RedX and Vulcan 7 are 2 of the top. So.
We would agree with that, and it goes back to what we were saying about, you might as well work from the standpoint that all the data is going to be crap, and you're in a much better position, because if you expect the data to be crap, then there's only one way to get conversion, and that's going to be effort. And so there are differences, maybe a little bit, but they all come with multiple numbers traditionally, and as long as you hit it hard and you got a system and a process, don't jump around trying to go Land Voice for 60 days and then RedX and then this. That's not the problem. It's your system and your processes. Now, I would tell you, if you want to benchmark, if you find that 50% or more of your data is wrong numbers or not connected to the address, then you might have an issue. But it's completely normal to have 25 or 30% of the numbers be wrong, bad, not the owner. That is completely normal. So don't waste the time and waste the data that you've accumulated just because you think that you're getting a lot of wrong numbers. In reality, it may not even be that 25 or 30%.
Right. And don't let that be the reason you stop calling.
Yeah, right.
I promise you, and we check some of the numbers too. And, let me just take a look. Hold on. I got on the wall right now, 1, 2 of them are expired.
Love it.
Close. Those are paychecks. Those aren't just listed, whatever. That's 2. So right there, going to closing because we reached out to the numbers we had. So I promise you it works. Just going to work works. Show up. That's half the battle.
That's it. And
work.
And people, listening in, a couple. That's just one pillar within the organization, right? For sell by owner, campaign strategy would be another pillar. And that's really what we work towards, is putting as many pillars inside of your business as possible, because the more pillars that you have, the stronger the foundation that, your business is going to be built upon. And so, Matt's done a great job with that. And so, Matt, let's transition a little bit to where we're at today, kind of what things look like, and kind of really those core pillars and foundation for your business, and kind of where your time is allocated and spent right now. And I think this is really good for everybody, even if you're not a part of EXP, to understand that if you are recruiting or trying to grow your team a little bit, it can become consuming. So you've got to be careful, and you've got to make sure that you're balancing with your recruiting efforts as well as your production efforts. And so being able to balance that out. So give some context to that, what that looks like for you, now, and it's evolved, right? You know, over the 13, 12, 13, 14 months, it's evolved. And it's just because of trial and error and learning. And I mean, it's been a new learning process for us. Geez, we, November 1st will be, 2-year anniversary for Kinder and myself, and, Albie's right at 2 years. So, this is kind of really fresh, new territory that we're in, and we're learning every day. And so, Matt, kind of share with everybody what things look like for you today.
On the recruiting side?
Yeah, and also speak to the balance of your recruiting effort and time and energy, along with still, production requirements as well.
So actually I'm in between ISAs. So what'll happen now, and I didn't want to hire one while I was in baseball season. So what'll happen now is I'll hire an ISA come mid-end August, which will again start getting my listing appointments, up. I'll make some of those calls. I'll be going on more appointments there. And then on the agent recruit side, here's my opinion. It is a similar opinion. Well, it's just my opinion, but I think it's pretty dead on. A agent is the same thing as a buyer or seller lead. That is all an agent is. Okay. So if you have a follow-up system to a for sale by owner, a expired, a buyer that hits Zillow, that is the same exact thing that needs to happen for you picking up the phone and calling one of the 2,000 realtors near you. Okay. So at the end of the day, I have leads. There's going to be some days where I look up and I see the names on the wall. Shit, I got to follow up with somebody. Let me see. All right. Well, you know what? Let me do. It's been about a month since I've checked in with a few. Anybody else I need to check in on, right? And that's my warmer leads and hot leads. And I know we have that the wealth chart that we can focus on. Mine are being built, so I'll have them Monday.
Nice.
When I get back. But and then I have even, just like these posters are over here, I do have some of the listings that I'm chasing. So those will be hot listing leads, right? So daily, I'm trying to get a lead, to an appointment, whether it is, buyer, seller, more seller. I don't really focus on buyers at all, but it'll be listing lead driven. And then I need signs in the ground to pay the bills, right? And then I need agents to fund the future. Okay. And I want to share this opportunity with everybody because I truly feel that it is the biggest opportunity in real estate. So, and I share my story. Hey, maybe the last 5-10 minutes I can share my story. I think I got a PowerPoint I can pull up. If that would work, I could probably just run through that so people could see it, about how this, changed and all that stuff, and what I kind of share with everybody about, why the opportunity exists. I don't know. That's up to you guys. But at the end of the day, the way I structure it is everybody is a lead. Whether it's agent attraction, I have the systems that we have for that I can jump in on and check on every couple of days. And then expireds for sell by owners and production, and by the way, we got to process all these deals, right? We still did 80 deals last year, and a lot of that was my production. So I still got to worry about production and everything else and administration and all that.
How do you prioritize that, Matt? I think that'll be helpful for folks. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to put things in priority. They think, oh, I got to do this. And then they get pulled back over here. So how do you prioritize it?
So, on the transactional side, first thing is you need a system, right? Don't overdo it. Just make a system and be done with it. Make it as simple as you can. A checklist, find an app. There's Keep by Google. There's, I don't know if Trello works, but Wunderlist. But any of those checklist apps, just make a checklist for your files. And if you're below 40 units, that's what you need. If above that, you've got better systems, bigger, where you would have it done in softwares like I use. So I guess that's how, you manage the day-to-day. And then what was the rest of the question, John?
Yeah. So prioritize, what's the hierarchy? Where do you start? Do you start with agents? Do you start with expireds? Do you start with for sale by owners? Do you start with where give me kind of like in order of how you prioritize, opportunities.
So every day you need a lead. Okay. In my opinion, at the end of the day, you need a lead. I tell the agents here, an appointment a day keeps the bill collectors away. So if you're in this business and you're young, I know I know you had bills. You have bills like I had bills, and you better get an appointment every day. And that's what it is. So when it comes to not letting things like deal issues interrupt my day and night, if my picking up the phone is not going to change the outcome of the situation at hand, then I don't need to answer that phone. If I'm not going to have an answer at 6:30 at night to a title issue for a buyer who's upset or a seller who's upset, I'll take a call to make sure somebody's not upset, but I'm going to diffuse it and say, look, we got to work on this at 9 a.m. And that pushes you back into that mode instead of, what do agents do? Oh, well, now I can focus on, this deal issue instead of making my calls to expireds or to sell by owners or my sphere, whatever.
Great point. Hopefully you guys caught that. You're in charge. You get to control, and you're either on your agenda and your schedule, or you're on somebody else's. And so what Matt just gave you right there was the ability to stay on your schedule and not get on that other person's. That was a golden nugget there.
Yep. And one of the things we're good at as agents is really, coming up with stuff, whether it's a new ad or this or that. And what do? We over perfect it till we try it a few times and then we don't like it. It doesn't work. Thanks. Bye. Right.
Yeah.
So and when it comes to these systems of even making expired calls, making calls to your sphere, I want to get the script down. I had an agent in my office. She had a hard conversation with a friend. And all I did was tell her to call her sphere. I said, read the script. Here's the script. That script was hard. I was like, it can't be hard. It's your friend. But it is hard if you're not doing it. And that's what forces people to not pick up the phone. Because, man, I don't know if I want to sound like salesy to my friend. But guess what? If you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. And they're going to take that out of your house. And if you're okay with the money leaving your house, that's fine until you can't eat. So, again, priorities are just, I just prioritize what the deals of the week are, getting a new deal, getting a new listing. If I look at the inventory, it's low. All right, we got to get some more signs in the ground. Let's focus on that. If I don't notice, agents that are joining EXP with us, all right, we got to focus on that a little bit. And we're trying, continuing, and by the way, this isn't permanent. Nothing we do is permanent. You guys have to flex. And that's something I've learned over the years with Kinder Reese. Hey, 1 year we were saying, don't ever pay a buyer's agent on a listing. 2 years later, we're like, all right, they should get it. They should get 10% or something if they take a buyer lead and they have to sell, because if we don't, they let the deal go out the window versus, giving them a reward. So just flex with everything.
Great point.
And do what's right. And that's it. And just keep an eye. And I guess, what else it would come down to, John? It would come down to knowing your numbers. So if you don't know your numbers and are not tracking yourself, you're just going to do the thing you're going to take the phone calls at 9 at night, that are worthless, that you could have handled it at 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning when nobody else is making phone calls or nobody's picking up their phone if it's a lead. Right. So, that's it. That'd be my whole answer on that, I guess.
I love that. And I love the appointment per day keeps the bill collectors away.
That's it. Conversations. I love it, man. And it's so the two simplest, like for you, what I take out of that, man, it's 3 questions. Here, if you can find a way to ask these 3 questions. Do you want to go look at some property? Are you interested in selling your property? Do you want to sit down and talk about an opportunity? Those 3 questions sum up Matt's day, and I need to have that conversation as many times a day as possible, right? And if I get one of each of those, one of them is going to show up and actually do something, probably, yep. Right? But it's so easy if you just think, my goal isn't to go get a listing today. It's not just reduce it down to the simplest, reduce it to the ridiculous. A great sales trainer from 100 years ago said, reduce it to the ridiculous. I just need to have conversations today and ask these 3 questions as many times as I can.
And make an appointment. That's
make
it.
an appointment.
If you need to make it, get an appointment every day of the week. If you do that 3 days a week, you will be more successful than more than half of the realtors out there. Do it 5 days and you'll be the elite.
So we'll take this last 5 minutes that we have to allow anybody who has some questions, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A chat box. Unmute yourself. Feel free to ask it live here on the call. Those of you that are watching this later, be sure and show some love, comment, drop your questions that you have for Matt in the chat. Matt, what's a email they can get a hold of you if they'd like to see your presentation and really understand why you decided to make a change to where you're at now with EXP? How can they get a hold of you?
We can do a live video, but what can I chat it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, drop it in the chat there. And by the way, while he's doing that, I want to remind everybody to visit kinderreesecoaching.com if you're interested in talking to us more about our exponential growth coaching program. You can find some great information there outlining exactly what we do and how we help at kinderreesecoaching.com. And then Kitchens, why don't you tell them about the event we have coming up here in about 30 days?
Yeah, we have our Agent to CEO event, live event coming up. So a few of you may be familiar with the Agent to CEO digital course that we have. And man, we're taking that course live. It's something that we've never done before. We've only, usually it's the process like what Matt was sharing and talking about and walking through is usually the process that we take our clients through over the course, of working with us. And it's just a constant iteration, you're looking at kind of working had the opportunity to work with Matt for coming up on 6 years. And most of you are like, how in the heck do you work with the same coach for 6 years? Well, it's the constant evolution and the constant growth and the constant changing. And it's just the constant, it is growth. It's a growth focus. And so Jeff's going to pull it up. You can head over to agenttoceolive.com. And you can scroll down to the bottom there, or right in there, read through there. There's that good looking dude there giving a testimonial in there.
Oh, yeah. Who is that guy? Look at that guy. Oh, look at that.
Who's that guy right there?
Yeah.
Not even on purpose.
And so you have that, but the agenda's there. You can check it out. We're gonna take you through, get you crystal clear, get your game plan strategy put in place. We're going to make sure you understand the model that you're in, how you take advantage of it. What Matthew was saying a little bit earlier about highest and best use, team and org structure. We're going to talk about laying out that hiring process. Matt has a great hiring process in place and a great recruiting process in place. Matt said that word a lot, right? He said systems and processes are really foundational for him to do the things that he does. I mean, they do 80 to 100 deals a year. Matt does most of them himself, and he's able to leverage himself and still coaches kids sports teams, right? How many of you on this call would be like, oh my gosh, I can't even fathom the time to go and coach my kids sports teams. Matt does it, makes it work. And he does it very well. And so it's because he has strong systems and processes in place, which allow him to do those things. We're going to talk leadership. And then we are definitely going to help you get clear on what core systems and processes you need to have in place in your business to be able to, really design the life that you want to live. That's in alignment, financially, as well as, on the personal side of things. And, it's just not because Matt's on the call, but, I reference Matt quite a bit when it comes to how do you make it work? And you make it work because you design it to work, and you put in the infrastructure in place that allows it to work. And, it's definitely tons of nuggets on this call with Matt. If you've got any questions, I would highly recommend that you reach out to Matt. You can hit him up on Instagram. There is the MJ Curcio 7 on Instagram, email, Facebook, smoke signals. Reach out to us. We'll connect you, whatever you need to do. But I would highly recommend you take a little time, and if you can get a little bit of time with Matt, it'll definitely be well worth it.
Yeah, man. Last thing I'd say is I've always been a systems person. So, building a system for your business as it grows, continue to just, I guess have a structure to everything you do, every deal. While it's different, there is a similarity to every single transaction. So track every step of the process, have a manual for somebody. If something happened to you today, somebody should be able to read a manual and finish your transactions for you and step in for you with your direction, remotely.
100%.
And that goes with softwares and all that stuff. Eventually you build that stuff out too. So yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time, Matt, as always. And I know we'll see you soon in person at one of our next events. I remember sitting and meeting you 3 years ago or so. So it's good to be on a call here today with you. And Kitchens, as always, I appreciate you. Everybody who's listening, don't forget to go to kinderreescoaching.com if you want some help putting all of this stuff together. And until the next Spotlight interview, we will see you all later.
See ya. Thanks, Matt.
Guys.
Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah.